So, hi, welcome back to Sherburne Public Library's Book Talk. This week, we're really lucky. We have with us a somewhat local, poet and writer, Jay Long, who is from the Lower Hudson Valley. And he's published a couple of books with his poetry. He has a publishing company and a lot of other things. So we thought we would have a little conversation with him. So welcome, Jay.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're with us. This is great. So, well, let's first just talk about you. How did you get started with writing? How did it all start?
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, I've always had this thing for words. Even when I was younger, when I'd buy an album or something, I go straight to the lyrics.
Yeah.
I never listened to the music first, and I always found myself so upset when an album didn't have lyric sheets. And then I just from there, I just kept going. My dad was a really big reader, and that kind of got me into reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had like a knack for storytelling.
Yeah.
Myself, or I found that I did. So I just started doing it. And it's funny because I actually started doing screenwriting when I was in my early 20s.
Oh, wow.
That's how I started. But, the resources back then, 25 plus years ago, wasn't what we have now. So, yeah, after I got started with that, I actually was friends with Sam Wright, who just passed away recently. He was the voice of Sebastian the Crab.
Oh, yeah.
And the original Lion King cast on Broadway.
Oh.
And so he turned me on to his agent, and they had a script reader read it, and they said that it was good, but New York was for playwrights, and if I wanted to do anything with screen, that I should move to LA.
Yeah.
And at that time, I just wasn't ready to do so.
Right.
And then that's how it all started, really.
That's really cool. That's cool that you had a good connection there.
Yeah, he was a good friend too. So
yeah.
it was a good, like you said, it was a good connection because we had so much commonality,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So definitely.
Yeah. Wow. It's funny now when you're talking about the lyrics for records or whatever, records at the time.
Yeah.
Those are harder and harder to find. Now when they drop an album, you don't really get a piece of paper anymore. You get,
That's right.
or an actual piece of, a CD or a whatever.
Yeah, actually, I just started going through my vinyl collection, and I recently just made a list of like 100 albums that I would really like to chase and find.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, everything's digital now, so they didn't get the lovely thing with the booklet that has all the words in it.
That's right. The beauty of the internet is that the lyrics are always there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So now they have to do that instead of getting, opening that CD or that vinyl album and finding the lyrics.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
They're losing that part. It's kind of sad.
Yes.
So, well, we kind of talked about, how you first realized you wanted to be a writer. I don't know if was that moment part of just reading and loving what you were doing, being inspired by your dad and your friend.
Yeah, like I said, I always found that I was a natural storyteller. Yeah. And, to me, like, for me, screenwriting was really the avenue that I could get into,
Sure. Yeah.
But, life got in the way for 20 years.
Sure.
And then, I recently, in 2013, 14, started writing again. And, I went to like poetry and prose and, a little bit like longer, meaningful, life lesson type of writings, on my blog and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of just stuck. So I pursued it.
Awesome. So in your process, how do poems come to you? Do they, do they appear in your head, or do you see something and it inspires you? Do you, there's probably all sorts of reasons or ways that happens, but.
Yeah. Well, like when I was a teenager, obviously, my poetry was all about puppy love and,
Oh, yeah.
so,
Angst of teenage life.
yeah. So it was always usually a girl
Yeah.
that inspired something. But, as I got older, and especially now, I'll be 50 next Wednesday on the 21st. And
Happy birthday.
thank you. It's more like kind of like storytelling. I keep going back to the storytelling.
Yeah.
But and I use my own experiences. I use the experiences from friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
Stories that I've heard from them. Their wishes, their wants. And to be honest with you, I've used distant couples that I've watched at the mall or something, and I try to imagine their story, or if I see somebody on the road passing me or whatever, I don't know, I just I always just, there's inspiration in everything. So it comes in different forms, and I don't have like one, like I don't have a muse. I guess life is my muse, which is good.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, some people, when they lose their muses, they lose their writing. But I guess if I'm always using my everyday experiences, I think I'll always be able to write.
Right. Do you ever get stuck? Like, do you have that writer's block thing that happens for a lot of writers? I mean.
Yeah. Like I have this weird theory that writer's block doesn't really exist. I kind of feel like it's traffic jam, like almost like a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Think about when you're on the road and there's an accident and there's a road closed up ahead. All that traffic has to go into one small space.
Right.
So I feel like when I get that type of block, it's normally because I have so much thought going on, and it's all trying to get out at once. Yeah. And so what I do is, to get out of that, is I do a lot of free writing, just to kind of do like a brain dump.
Yeah.
And I've surprised myself with some great pieces that have come out of that. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, most of my poetry and my prose and things like that, I write pretty quickly. I know that most writers will hate me for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Some, they go over and over it, but at times there's stuff that I just have like a stanza, or an idea, or a first line, or a last line even, and I'll go back to it, and what I'll do is I'll just get very quiet and just write a bunch of stuff out and see how it comes. Yeah. But for the most part, when I write, it comes rather quickly. Yeah. It doesn't like last on and on.
I think you're lucky, honestly.
I feel that way at times, for sure. Because I know some people, they lament over things and just want it, perfect. And, perfection can come, but the beauty of it is that it isn't perfect.
Right. So like, I live with a writer, and he writes.
That's great.
He has his moments of, mental blocks or whatever, and then once he gets through it, it's like boom, and then he just writes like crazy. And
absolutely, it's like those floodgates open. Exactly.
Yeah. I think sometimes your brain is figuring it out in the back of your head somehow, like because he writes novels, so trying to figure out how the story's going to actually go, and all the minutia that goes into the detail of writing it. And I think sometimes that just is working in the back of your brain, and then suddenly it all kind of becomes clear.
Absolutely. I there's days that I'll sit for a while and maybe not write anything down, but in my head it's working.
Right.
And then the thoughts just come out. Yeah, I mean that's the process for a lot of writers.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I think probably 90% of their time is thinking about it, and 10% of it is actually getting it out on paper.
Yeah, and I think that happens too because I know when we get really busy in our life, things overtake the rest of our life. That's the time when it's hardest to write, because you don't have the time the thinking time. You're just constantly doing whatever you're supposed to be doing in your life to make it happen, and then suddenly, when you do have time to think about it, it all comes into your head, I think. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure your husband would say, and you've probably witnessed it, where
Yeah.
where he looks like he's sitting around doing nothing for a few days or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you can't see him for a week.
Right. Exactly. He's there every night.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I know that feeling.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So your writing process, obviously, I think you write every day. I think that's
Yes.
at least your goal, or at least sit and think about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't maybe necessarily write, poetry or prose every day,
Right.
but I write something. Like I said, either I'm writing like a longer, think piece or blog post or something. So I'm always writing.
Yeah.
I think it's important to even like amateur writers. I think it's important to write every day,
Right.
just to get in some kind of routine where you make time to write. Because if writing is important to you,
That's
then
right.
you've got to cut something out of your life to make time for that. Just like anything,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
even if it's a half hour in the morning, just like I said, to free write and get the thoughts out.
Right.
You'd be very surprised about how much stuff really comes from those type of exercises.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's very true.
definitely.
Do you write, do you just use like a pencil or do you use a computer? I mean, everybody has a different instrument or the way they do it.
Yeah. So usually when I write poetry or prose or like shorter pieces, I like to use pen and pad all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I'm writing like I said, a longer thought piece or whatever, I usually have an idea of where I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to sit down at a keyboard because when I think that way, I could type as fast as I could think, but I can't write as fast as I could think.
Exactly. Yeah.
So sometimes I lose the thought,
Mm-hmm.
or it doesn't come out as natural as it should.
Yeah.
With poetry and prose, it's a more thought out basis of lines,
Right.
so I can write it one line at a time.
Right.
And so I like to handwrite it first.
Yeah. I can see
Yeah. I
it.
mean, every piece that was in my books, they were all handwritten first.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
mean, and no good writer would be a writer without a stack of notebooks,
Right.
and especially ones that they don't like writing in.
They don't like writing in? What do you mean? Like,
Yeah. So I mean, every time I see like a journal or a nice
oh,
notebook, I'll pick it up and
gotcha.
I leave it there. I go, yep, I'm gonna use that for something, and I never write in them. And I usually just write in spiral notebooks and
Yeah, scrap piece of
people like
paper.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because there's some beautiful journals out there that you could just write some beautiful things in. But yeah, I always feel like I've bought them before too because I just think they're beautiful and I think I'm going to write something. And I buy them and then I just never want to write in them because they're so nice. And so I'm trying to save all my good writing for that, which is so stupid.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, it's funny because I have a lot of great friends that gift me a lot of
yes,
journals,
yes.
and I do. I really have things set up to write in them, and I start in
Oh,
there.
that's good. Yeah.
So yeah, so none of them are unmarked,
Well, that's good.
but they're just not full.
Yeah.
I guess that's my writer's curse that I never feel like things are good enough to be in them, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I write it on the notebook pads.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that ends up in your book. So,
That's right, exactly, yeah. And and then I just transfer them. Obviously, I retype them on
yeah.
the computer to get them digital and
Right.
what I have to do with them. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Makes sense. This is a funny question, and we talked about this a little bit. What is your interesting writing quirk? You said you weren't sure.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't even know if it's a quirk, but when I write poetry or prose, everything has to be very silent, or I have to. I write a lot down by the river, down by the Hudson River.
Nice.
And just water kind of just centers me a little bit. So I'll sit either like on a picnic bench or something, or I'll at least have the windows open, car off, radio off, and I just let everything come that way.
Yeah.
But if I'm writing a blog piece or an article or something a little bit longer. I got to crank the music. Maybe that's my only quirk that I have.
Well, I think everyone has a different way of doing that. Some people don't want any music, I know.
Yeah.
I think my husband likes music, but no music with words, which makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I know a lot of writers that use like instrumental pieces behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll listen to jazz or classical or something,
Yeah, I got to listen to some good old rock and roll when I'm writing longer pieces like that.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
what I So how long does it take you to write a poem? I mean, obviously that's going to vary, I would think, because it depends on
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm lucky in the way that a lot of my poetry comes to me rather quickly.
Yeah.
Like once I get the idea, I start, and there's some pieces that I've written in 10 minutes. I mean, there's other pieces that are a little bit longer that maybe took 20 minutes or whatever, and then especially if it's longer, I tend to write like free thought almost, and then what I'll do is I'll rearrange the lines to make them the best possible way that I think they are.
Right.
But and there's occasions where I'll have like a line or two, and then I'll put it aside, and then I'll sit down. But I don't count the days in between starting and stopping. But I would say that most of my pieces are done within a half hour.
Wow. That's
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky in that way, I think.
Yeah, I think so. How do you know when it's finished? Like, sometimes I'm sure that varies too, but when you're writing something, when are you done? When do you feel like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you're saying. And my poetry and prose tends to have a final line that kind of like really solidifies what the piece is about.
Definitely.
And for me, that's always been my writing style. I always have I try to have a really good opening line, and then I have a very good or strong end line. And that comes as I'm writing. I don't think about that end line.
That's good.
And when that comes, I know it's done. I know that sounds probably a little cliche.
No, I think there is that time in your life when you're reading it, or that moment when you just go like, "Yep, that's it. That's the way it has to be." Because some people, I think, go back to it too much. It's like any piece of art. You're painting a picture and you keep adding, and sometimes not adding is the best thing.
Yeah, I think my thing is that I don't write for anybody else, kind of. I have a thought, and I kind of just write it how I feel it. And it could be a 40 or 50 line piece of poetry or something. But that last line always is the solidifier. Or it could be a 5 or 6 line piece, but it's always that last line, and it comes, like I said, if I'm in the middle of writing and then I just have that last line, it's always the the keystroke to it, that just lets me know that I'm done. And once I get there, if I try to force it after that, I find that I can't, and it takes away from anything. That's where it is. It's just that last line for me has always been the boom.
You're a true artist in that sense, I think, because you just know when it's ready and you walk away from it, so to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Do you have a favorite form of poetry? I mean, I've seen, you do different kinds. Sometimes you do haikus and you do blackout poetry.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of my stuff has really turned into like storytelling, poetic prose. I do sometimes do rhyming stuff and things like that, but I don't always go that route. And I commend people. I know friends of mine that are writers that do all their pieces with the rhyming scheme, and very long pieces, not like little tiny things. But I don't tend to go that way. A lot of my stuff is just poetic prose. But I will say, like, to me, blackout poetry is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I like
To be able to look at another piece and really like hone in on the words and create a
that.
whole nother piece from it.
I know.
It's interesting, and I love when I see it out,
Yeah,
like online or on Instagram or something like that.
yeah,
But I will say that my the one that interests me the most is haiku,
yeah. I was
uh,
just gonna say that.
because so
Yeah,
much is said within very little space,
yeah. I'm amazed
and
with that. I'm always
yeah,
amazed with that.
and that's my next book that's coming out.
Oh, cool, cool.
Yeah, it's actually, I think I've released maybe like 100 haiku,
Wow,
but the book that I'm doing is called In Pieces, and it's going to be actually about 300 pieces
wow.
of like haiku and like other short form
Yeah,
poetry like that.
yeah. Oh, I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, and a lot of it is haiku inspired.
Yeah,
You know?
haiku is amazing to me because I'm always a very wordy person because if I'm going to write something, I write it all out and it's huge,
Hmm.
and then I have to like edit it down so it becomes like,
Yeah,
what are you really trying to say here? So haiku to me is like I'm amazed by people who can just write something like that in such
yeah,
distinct word, just a few words, and it means so much. Sometimes you just,
yeah. That's I mean, I really enjoy doing it, and to
yeah,
me, it's that challenge. Like you said, to
yeah,
using the syllable list, it's 17 syllables to get everything out that you have to say, and if you do it right, it really comes out.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
I
So,
I love yours. So as you
thank you
know,
so
anyway,
much.
yeah. Um, So, okay. So let's talk about your publishing. You have a little publishing company, I believe, right?
Yes, 300 South Media Group,
Yeah.
and it was actually started when I self-published my first book, and then just over the years, I had friends that were asking me to edit for them and go
Mhm.
through and proofread and just
Yeah.
um, even like developmental editing
Yeah.
for
Wow.
poetry and stuff. A lot
Yeah.
of people, when they read their own stuff, they just they don't always think it's the right thing. And when I can read it, I can say, yeah, if you just remove that word or you change that line,
Hmm.
very much the same way with mine.
Right.
Like there's a couple poems that I have out from my early days that I read them now, and I said, I should have put that part up here and
Yeah.
the other part down below because it just would have stuck better.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously, it's only my opinion, but um,
Sure. But
you know, and so I did a few edits for friends that were putting poetry books out,
hmm
and you know, the online poetry community on Facebook, especially, is pretty close knit, and there's so
yeah.
many talented people,
Yeah.
and publishing can be even self-publishing can be a little tedious, and um, a lot of people maybe don't know the ins and outs of it.
Right.
And I've
Right.
been doing it now for 7 years,
Yeah.
and so I think I naturally went towards that,
hmm
and I recently started publishing others,
Yeah.
and so far I did a couple of anthologies that I have out with multiple authors,
Right.
um, and
Right.
then recently I published two books, one in June, one just in July here, and then
Mhm.
there's about five more slated for the rest of the year,
Wow.
of
Big.
fellow writers and poets.
That's
And
really cool.
yeah, like I said, because it's a little tedious and it can run into a little bit of expense.
Yeah. It
You know,
totally
not
can.
not everybody has that expense, so
Right.
um, I try to help out as best I can.
Right. So so as the publisher, what do you do for them? 'Cause uh,
They do all the writing.
obviously.
But what I do is, I secure the ISBN number for them.
Gotcha.
Um, I do the editing, I do the layout, I do the formatting. I create a book blurb for them
Mm-hmm.
with a full description, and I create the covers.
Great.
Unless, for my company anyway, I do the covers.
Yeah.
If someone obviously that I was publishing had a cover or artist that had done something,
Mm-hmm.
commissioned,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the permission to use it, I
Yeah.
would definitely, take that in consideration.
Right.
You know, because I try to work with them as best I can. You know, I have a vision that they may not, but so far so good. You know,
Yeah.
and then you know, so with that, you know, as a publisher, you're not charging any money to publish a book. You know, and that's where a lot of first time writers get caught up, because there's a lot of vanity press stuff out there where they're charging you huge package deals, you know, $3,000-$4,000, and then they still have rights to your book, and they still have rights to the royalties, and a lot of those packages don't include editing, they don't include anything. So basically what they'll do is, no matter how good or bad a manuscript will be, they'll put it out, and you know, it could be filled with grammatical errors, it could be filled with spelling errors, and you know, they're just really after your money, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is.
And the way a true publisher works, and even though I'm a small independent publisher, I still get like a stipend through royalty splits.
Sure.
But I try to give the my authors the biggest split that I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work to self-publish. My husband did that also, and it took him tons of work just to get it all figured out. You know.
Yeah, there are a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of you know, especially with file creation and things like that. I mean,
the layout, that was a issue in the beginning. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, every book has a margin, and you know, the headers, the footers, and you know, font size and character.
Right.
Definitely, it's a process for sure.
Yeah, so it's great if you've got a service that will help people through that part of it, because that's.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, my journey has kind of is now like a bigger purpose to help others to get out there.
That's great.
You know, and unfortunately, I mean, you can't publish everybody. I would love to.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm trying to think so bad, but it's like I really do. I would love to publish everybody that writes. You know. Just because I think there is so much talent out there.
Yeah, there really is. There is.
You know, and it's unfortunate that more people can't see it.
I know, and that is the difficulty with self-publishing. Honestly, you know, working in a library, how do I see self-published works? It's really difficult to find you know, they're not just handed to us in the traditional ways that, you know, other books are that are, you know, published by big publishers.
No, I know that you know, especially for, you know, stores and chain stores and things like that, it's tough for them to you know, put self-published books on the shelves.
Right.
You know, even with my small independent publishing company.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough to get into store shelves, only because, you know, for the most part, you know, the writers are unknown. You know, so there's no I don't know, track record.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everybody needs to make money.
Right.
You know, the stores.
Yeah.
Things like that. So, and that's always a deterrent, you know, and that's a big factor in a lot of things that get published is, you know, what is the existing platform that a writer has? Because, you know, other than self-publishing, any publisher needs to somehow estimate what they're going to sell, you know, and it may not be, you know, thousands of books, but, you know, especially big publishers, you know, like the big five, they won't touch anybody without some huge following. Just because they put so much into it, you know. But like you said, it's an expense. So platform is really good, and unfortunately, so many writers, they focus so much on the writing. They lose sight of the building of the platform.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, you don't have time for that. You know, a lot of times, if you could write full time, which many writers I don't think are full time writers.
No,
you can't afford to, because you're not selling your books. You gotta make a living. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a difficulty because you don't have the time to do all of that. And you
This
need,
is so true. I mean, and it's not, everybody thinks that a platform is just your social media links, but it's
yeah,
really not. It's really like it really consists of the whole following that you have and the actual, footprint that you have online,
yeah,
or in other media, you know. And I always suggest that writers get a website to start and, use that as almost like a hub for all of your social media platforms and links and things like that.
yeah,
Because, in the big picture of it all, we don't own our social medias.
right.
And, tomorrow things could change. I mean, look at MySpace. Everybody thought MySpace was going to be,
Yeah,
here forever.
that's
And,
right.
we were all friends with Tom and, but it kind of went belly up.
Yeah,
So I mean, that should teach anybody. I mean, I don't know if Facebook will ever go belly up, but it may change its model,
right. Yeah,
and certain things may change. I mean, it's already changed over the last 5 years,
right.
very drastically. With how pages are shown and
Yeah,
how much reach a writer can get through
yeah,
just the regular channels.
yeah.
And then you have Instagram and you have Snapchat and you got TikTok and,
So
all of them.
many. Yeah, yeah. So what is your advice to, I mean, you were just giving some of it, but what would be your advice to those self-published writers who are trying to get their names out there? And I mean, what's the best way to go about it?
Well, I mean, when I first started writing, I didn't think about publishing. Like there was not a book in my head.
Right.
I didn't plan on writing a book. I knew that people enjoyed what I wrote, so I started putting it out there to be separate from my personal Facebook.
Right.
So that was December of 2013. I posted my first piece on Facebook.
Yeah.
And but I would always say, I mean, if you're really in it for the publishing part of it, if you're writing to publish and want to make a name for yourself, I would always start with a website, and then I would at least get a Facebook business page. And for writers, I would definitely get an Instagram account. And, if you want to go a little further, you can get a Pinterest account. TikTok right now is all the rage.
Yeah.
I always swore that I wouldn't get on TikTok, and I unfortunately have gone on there. But you know what? And I kick myself because I have fun doing what I do on TikTok. I'm not dancing or singing on there or getting trendy. But there's a lot of nice tools that can, get your words out there, and I do a lot of spoken pieces on there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would say that, as soon as possible, start building that platform.
Right.
There's a lot of great Facebook groups out there for writers to share their poetry and things.
Yeah, there really is. There's a lot.
Yeah, there is. I mean, and most of them, I would say 90% of them are very user friendly, and they welcome, new people.
Yeah.
And encourage their writing and things like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of TikTok, we got a TikTok for the library. So we thought, well, it wasn't my idea. It was, we have these, I have younger, high school students who work for us. And
sure.
Of course, they know all about TikTok and how to use it. So they're like,
oh, yeah.
we need a TikTok for the library. I'm like, we do? And they're like, yes. And so they've been doing, we have a few videos that they've done. And honestly, I helped them create one of the videos. It was a whole little story thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was so much fun. It was and very creative. I was really amazed at how creative you can be on there. So I have a lot more respect for it now than I did when it first came out, because I thought, oh, it's just going to be another one of those trending things.
I'm in that same boat with you. I'm in that same boat. I always thought, TikTok was just, those funny videos and things like that. But, after being on there, I see
Yeah.
that it's a serious platform at times. I
Yeah.
mean, like anything, you could find anything on there.
That's right. It's just like Facebook.
And
There's,
yeah,
all sorts
exactly.
there.
If you're looking for writing and inspiration,
Mhm.
things like that, you will find
Yep.
enough of it to keep you going.
Right. Just
And
like
you
a
could,
few things and it'll keep showing up in your feed. New things will show up in
yeah,
your feed.
that's right. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You have a big social media following, I think. I mean, it seems like you do. It's growing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, my personal writers page has about 135,000
That's great.
followers,
I don't
and
know.
my Instagram only has about 6,500,
Yeah.
and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I I did it all organically. Most of
Hmm.
it is you know just constant posting and interaction with my followers and my fans,
Yeah.
and fans that have become friends like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really connected with a lot of great people through that page, and
Yeah.
I think that's what really does it for me is
I
the
think so
connection.
too. I think
You
so
know,
too. I think that was what kind of makes your page special in some ways that um, not everybody is friendly and open to just chatting with their fans, so to speak.
yeah,
So I think that makes it a big difference.
yeah. I mean, ever since the first couple pieces that I posted, I've always either reacted or commented on every comment that I've
Yeah.
gotten.
Yeah.
For the most part, within
Oh,
reason. I
yeah.
mean, like I don't go back, months and months and check and see if
No.
there's any new. But for the most part, like anything that's posted within a week or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm always on it, and I try to at least react
Right.
because I feel like if you've taken the time out of your day to share with me or
Hmm.
um, react in any kind of way, that it's just a mutual respect kind of thing.
Yeah. I just
And
think that's great. I just
yeah, I love knowing that the words resonate, and it's
yeah.
funny because there's pieces that I put out that I said, oh, people are going to hate this,
Yeah.
and it explodes.
Right.
And then there's pieces that I think people are going to love,
Hmm.
and they kind of sit there with dust on them for a while.
It's so
So,
funny. Yeah.
it, like I said, I don't usually write for people,
Right.
um, but you kind of think what
Sure.
your following is going to like after
Yeah.
you post it, and I'm always surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I think
I'm
that's
grateful for
true.
it.
That's true
But
of a
yeah,
lot of things, I think.
just to build that up, I mean, I just I become friends with a lot of big writers. I
Hmm.
mean, and they've grown with me. They weren't big when I knew them.
Right. Right.
Um, but like Alpha and Stephanie Bennett Henry,
Hmm.
John Storm, all those people.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all great friends, and
Great.
that has helped a lot because we've all grown together.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and I just I post every day as best I can.
Hmm.
And like I said, I try to be very connected with my following.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's made a
and
big difference.
it has worked over the years, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everything. Like I remember when I first started, I said if I could get 5,000 people, I'd be happy.
Right.
And that took about 2 years to do.
Yeah. That's great.
um, but
That's pretty good.
grown from there.
So what other stuff we talked a little bit about your upcoming projects. Do you have any other things in the works that you're thinking about
Uh,
or working
yeah, I
on?
mean, I've got a lot of things going on.
I know you do.
um, so I mean, I've got the few books coming up for
Hmm.
writers and an anthology coming out in July. um, but I have a workshop coming up. It's 21 days to a daily writing routine. It's called Hobby to Habit.
Oh, that's great.
I can let you know when it comes out.
Yeah.
And but it's a 21-day daily writing exercise type of workshop.
Yep.
Um, it's going to be through email, and also there's going to be a private Facebook group that you can interact, and there'll be some live videos and all that
Oh,
good
that's
stuff. And
great.
it'll be a place where you can share your writing, ask questions, whatever you need to do.
Right. That's great.
I'm looking forward to doing that because, like I said, if I could sit down with every writer, I would. But when you can, do it in mass, it's much better when you could scale it up.
Sure, sure.
And then I have my publishing company, which I'm trying to just build up as best I can. I got my own book coming out.
Right.
It's slated for like the end of August.
Oh, good.
It may get pushed back to September.
Yeah.
And then trying to think of what else that I have coming up. I do have a indie writers boot camp coming up in the fall.
Oh, cool.
But that's a very very large scale course. It's about 8 weeks long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's my entire journey of self-publishing and publishing, from platform to promotion to process. It's all going to be in there, and so I'm hoping that my journey can be someone's step-by-step guide to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anybody else are you a one-man show when it comes to your publishing company, or do you have other people working with you, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I had done web design and graphic design for 15 years before I decided to do writing full-time. And so I do all the covers. Being a desktop publisher prior to this, I'm very comfortable with Word. I'm very comfortable with all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do a lot of my own layouts and everything, and the formats.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do have a team of beta readers that kind of go through and just double check for me.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I mean, you as a librarian know that most books, even the big ones, come out with a few typos in them.
Yeah, more and more every year, it seems like.
Yeah. So as much as I would like them to be perfect, they don't always get perfect.
Right.
And when you're editing the words over and over again, it's just like writing your own stuff. You know what it's meant to say.
Right.
So you read it as it's meant to be said.
Yep.
And sometimes you miss things.
Yep.
So I have a nice little network of people that read and help get the word out there.
Right.
Which, again, I'm always grateful for everybody.
Yeah.
That adds a little hand. And then I have a good friend of mine who's kind of like my sounding board, and she's the person that kind of goes through my stuff when I write it. To like, does this sound okay? I mean, most of the time I think it sounds okay, but
sure.
I always, as you get into it, you always question.
Yeah.
So but she's always my friend Mary. She's actually from South Africa.
Oh wow.
She lives in Cape Town, and she's like my right hand man,
That's
my
awesome.
right hand woman.
Her woman,
I guess.
person, right?
Yeah, my right hand person. But yeah, she's invaluable. I mean, she's priceless.
Yeah. I think everybody needs a sounding board or somebody you can bounce things off from. You need that.
Yeah, she's she helps create my my pieces or my my posts that when I announce things and whatnot. She's just there all the time for me, which I love. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And that's the beauty of the internet too, is that we're a world away, and
absolutely.
She's always there. She gives me a little bit of time here and there.
Yeah.
When I need it, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, but for right now, I'm pretty much a one-man band.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. So when you're not writing or publishing or doing anything, do you have anything else that you really like to do? Do you have time for anything else?
Yeah, right. I always, everybody, that's what I get a lot of. I get a lot of people saying, how do you get all this done?
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I don't know. It comes naturally. But for me, all of it is just part of it. I love what I do. I love, finding that written word or that piece or whatever. I love and for book publishing, I just love the process.
Yeah.
I love putting things together and, putting them in a book. I love the process. I love, I don't know, it just, it comes naturally. But for me, all of it is just part of it. I love what I do. I love what I love, finding that written word or that piece or whatever. I love the seeing the end result, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And a lot of the people that I've edited for or laid out or formatted books for, they are just blown away by the fact that I could lay it out the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm always, I'm always humbled about it because I think I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
And but on the outside looking in, I guess it's a nice thing. But I mean, I read a lot too.
That's
I
good.
watch a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Not as many as I would like. I
I
mean,
know, me too. I love
my
movies. I don't get to watch as
yeah,
many as I'd
my
like.
my to watch list is growing and growing and
Yeah,
growing.
yeah,
I can't seem to catch up to it.
I know. And that list of like Netflix shows that I want to
Oh,
watch just keeps growing, and I'm never going to get
that's
to all of them.
I know. I have friends of mine saying, "Hey, did you watch this or have
I
you
know.
watched that?" And I says, "No, I'll add it to my list." And my
Yeah,
list is probably 3 pages long
I'm
now.
never, I'm never going to get to them all.
Not at all. Not at
Oh my
all.
gosh. But that's okay, I guess.
And like I said, I mentioned earlier about just really loving the water. So
Right, right.
anytime I can get down to the river, or you know, if I'm lucky enough to hit the ocean or whatever, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'm happy and grateful that I'm so close to the Hudson River, and
right.
there's a lot of quiet spaces that I can find and go to,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just realigns me.
I'm with
So,
you on that. I like being
absolutely.
by water myself. I'm not a beach person per se, but I love to be by water. And I like being by a lake
Mm.
because then I can sit in the shade because I'm not a sun person. So I
Yes.
can sit in the shade and just, be outside in nature, so to speak. I love that. That's just, yeah, you can be quiet. It's quiet, I mean,
Yeah.
there's noise, but it's not the noise of business and work and
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
people.
the beauty of it,
You know,
for
get,
sure.
get away from people is a good thing sometimes.
Just to find your quiet place, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So,
But yeah.
well,
Otherwise, it's if I'm not doing, I'm thinking.
yeah,
I do a lot of work in my head.
that is so important to have time to do that because I
Yeah.
find I don't have a lot of time to do that right now in my life, and it's not good. It's not good for yourself, for your mind, for your health to
Yeah.
not have that free time to just think and just be.
Yeah.
We don't
I
get
mean,
enough of
yeah, and I think that's what happens with me with the process of everything is
that.
I do have that time to think,
Yep.
so it's already done in my head, and
Yeah.
then once I start putting it into practice,
Yeah.
it really comes out better.
Yeah.
You
I think any creative process that you're doing, any kind of art or, I mean, for theater, I have the same thing because I'm directing a show right now, and I don't have enough time to sit and think about how I want things to be or some, whatever. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
no,
planning that goes on in your head that,
sure.
as director that you don't think about. And I haven't had enough time for that lately, and it's not good. It kind of stifles your creativity is what it does. And that,
And it almost makes the process feel rushed.
yes, rushed and just not as fun. I mean,
Yeah,
it's fun when you're creative and creating something and, working on something that you love and are passionate about. But when you have to, yeah, just run to it and do it or, not have the time to prepare as much as you'd like, it's just not as fun. It doesn't,
yeah,
it's not,
and
it's not satisfying to your soul, which I think what your writing does, I believe, for you is it really satisfies you inside. Don't you
yeah,
feel
it does.
where you,
Like I said, it comes from experience mostly now.
yeah.
It's a storytelling process for me
Hmm.
from life's experiences,
Right.
and it's a good way. I have to get it out. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do if I wasn't writing.
Right. It's
You know,
cathartic, I think. You need it. You need to get that out.
yeah, it's so much part of me now,
Hmm.
that I feel lost when I don't write something
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Or if I'm not somehow dipping my toes into the writing community somehow every day,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
I feel like kind of lost.
I understand that. Yeah, I really
You know,
do.
and like I said, I enjoy the process, and I just really I try to bring that value as best I can, because there's a lot of questions out there. People, writers in general, don't always have the answers that are readily available to them.
Hmm.
And I think it's good to one, share the knowledge, and help educate as best you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I want everybody to that wants to publish. Like I said, I mean, there's a lot of writers that just write to write, but there is people that write to publish, and
Hmm.
I think there's a process to it. And there's a lot of ins and outs that maybe aren't readily known to you,
Right.
and you don't want to mess yourself up by not knowing
Right.
the ins and outs, and dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and
Hmm.
and just following the process.
And not have to get through it on your own without not knowing, stumbling through it, like you probably did on your first time through. It's you make
Oh
those
yeah, I
mistakes.
mean, it took me months to put my first book out, only because
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything
Right.
right.
Right. So you're just a very generous person, Jay. You get you're
Well, thank
well.
you.
I think that's true. I mean, I think that's true. And so you're giving out, you're giving of your own experience, so that people can not have to stumble through some of that they might have to do if they didn't, they weren't
Yeah,
listening to you or got some advice from you on that. So plus you're
yeah,
generous, like I said, with all of your followers. You, like I said, you talk to them, you respond, you comment, which is that's huge.
yeah.
Makes
Thank
you
you.
makes you a person as opposed to just this guy that we don't know who lives
Yeah.
in his little palace of writing or whatever.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's all I am. I am just a guy
Right,
that,
I know.
that sits in my house and writes
Yeah,
like you
right,
know hundreds of thousands of other people.
right,
I'm just fortunate enough to have my words shared by
yeah,
and seen by millions over the years.
right, right.
You know,
But you
so
reach through and extend the hand, so to speak, that some people don't, which
yeah,
is great. So
I think that connection is important. I mean, how
yeah,
how cool would it have been? Not that I'm comparing myself to them, but
right,
how,
right,
how cool would it have been to be able to talk to your favorite author,
absolutely.
writer, when we were growing up, or
Right,
even now? I
right.
mean,
Any of them, yeah, yeah. Anybody yeah.
yeah.
And now
So
it is more possible now. It's much easier with social media. I mean, you can do that. Uh,
right.
they didn't have that back, 20 years ago or whatever. So,
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, my mother went to grammar school with James Patterson,
see, yeah.
and every once in a while he'll come back to town. Last time he was here is when he started the children's detective series,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and he did a reading at the local library,
Hmm.
and so that was fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and my mom always
Small
says,
world.
my mom always says to me, "I know him."
Yeah,
I
right.
know you do, Ma. So,
Now she knows two famous writers, right?
I don't know how famous I am, but
No, but I'm sure you're her favorite.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Let's
for
hope.
sure. And I did I told you I mentioned my company has done a couple of anthologies, and
Yeah,
I did back in May we released Sunset Rain, which was a short story anthology,
that's right.
and she made her writing debut in there.
That's right.
She wrote a story for it, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's wonderful. What a
Yeah,
good thing.
absolutely.
Well, I really thank you, Jay, for doing this. This has been great. It's really
Yeah,
fun.
actually, the pleasure's been all mine.
Uh,
I'm honored to have you ask me all these questions and answer for you.
well, I'm just happy that you're doing this. So we have both your books in our library. These are my personal copies, but we also have Jay's books in our library, so
Nice.
you can get them.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. You know what I should do? I should send you copies of the anthologies and stuff that we put out.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you want to, I will put them in.
I will.
Get them in our system because we're part of the 4-county library system. So we've got Durham, Shenango, Otsego, and Delaware County is all part of our group. So anybody in the system can take them out. So
very good. Yeah. Well,
press.
I'll get with you after and get the information that you need.
Awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you, Jay, for doing this. And
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. It'll be fun.
Yes.
We'll see how the editing goes. So thanks for listening, and we're so happy again to have Jay with us today. And we hope you'll come back, of course, and visit us at the library and listen to our book talks. See you soon. Bye.